Hello, little bookworms. Welcome back to Tiny Little Bookworms. Today, we have a heartwarming story about Sammy, a small and timid squirrel who learns the true meaning of bravery. Sammy's courage shines when he faces a terrifying storm to help a family of ducks in need. Join us as we discover how even the smallest of creatures can make a big difference by doing what's right, even when they're afraid. Once upon a time, in a vast and colorful forest filled with towering trees and soft, fragrant flowers, there lived a small, timid squirrel named Sammy. Sammy wasn't like the other squirrels in the forest. While the others would leap from tree to tree with ease, scurry across branches without a second thought, and play with their friends, Sammy was always a little hesitant. He was smaller than the others, and he often found himself afraid of the simplest of things, like jumping from one branch to another or crossing a small stream. His friends, Timmy the rabbit, Benny the bird, and Carla the chipmunk, were always encouraging Sammy to be brave, but Sammy would simply shake his head and shy away. "I'm just too small," he would say, "and I don't have the courage to do things like the others." Despite his fears, Sammy had a warm heart. He loved to help others, even if it meant doing things he wasn't fully comfortable with. Whenever his friends needed help, whether it was gathering acorns or finding food, Sammy would always lend a paw. But deep down, Sammy wished that one day he could be as brave as his friends. One sunny morning, a big storm rolled into the forest. Dark clouds covered the sky, and strong winds began to shake the trees. Rain poured down in torrents, making the forest floor slippery and dangerous. All the animals in the forest scurried to their homes to stay safe, except for Sammy. Sammy's home was a small tree hollow high up in an old oak tree, and it was a bit difficult for him to climb because of the wind and rain. Sammy stood at the base of the oak tree, looking up at his home, feeling nervous. "I don't know if I can make it up there," he thought, his tiny heart racing. "The wind is so strong, and the rain is pouring down. What if I fall?" Just as Sammy was about to give up and find a safer place to wait out the storm, he heard a faint cry for help. Sammy's ears perked up, and he quickly followed the sound. It came from across the forest, near a large creek that ran through the woods. Sammy's heart began to race. Who could it be, he thought? The storm was so fierce and no one was supposed to be out in it. He had to help, but the path to the creek was dangerous, especially with the wind and rain making everything slippery. Despite his fears, Sammy knew he couldn't ignore the cry for help. With a deep breath, he gathered all his courage. "I have to help, no matter what," he whispered to himself. "I might be small, but I can still do something." He scampered through the forest, dodging fallen branches and puddles of water, until he finally reached the creek. What he saw shocked him. A family of ducks had been caught in the swift current. Their nest had been swept away by the rain, and the mother duck was struggling to keep her ducklings afloat. The water was rising quickly, and the little ducklings were in danger of being swept away. Sammy's heart pounded in his chest. He was terrified. The creek was wide, and the water moved so fast. But Sammy couldn't just stand there. He had to do something. He looked around, searching for a way to help. Nearby, there was a fallen tree trunk that stretched across the creek. It was wide enough for Sammy to walk across, but it was also slippery and swaying in the strong wind. Sammy felt a wave of fear, but he remembered his friends and how they had always encouraged him to be brave. "I can do this," he whispered, taking one shaky step onto the tree trunk. With each step, Sammy's fear grew, but he kept his eyes focused on the mother duck and her ducklings. "I have to help them," he thought, his paws trembling as he carefully moved across the tree trunk. The wind howled and the rain beat against him, but Sammy kept going. Finally, he reached the other side of the creek, where the mother duck and her ducklings were struggling to stay afloat. Without hesitation, Sammy reached down and gently grabbed the nearest duckling. He held the tiny duckling tightly in his paws and slowly made his way back across the tree trunk. The wind howled and the rain drenched him, but Sammy's determination kept him going. He made it back to the other side safely, where the mother duck eagerly took her duckling into her wings. Sammy's heart swelled with pride, but he knew there was more to be done. He crossed the tree trunk again, each time bringing a duckling to safety, until all the ducklings were safe on the other side of the creek. The mother duck quacked happily, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, little squirrel," the mother duck said, her voice filled with emotion. "You've saved my babies. I don't know what I would have done without you." Sammy smiled, feeling proud but also a little surprised. "I'm just glad I could help," he said, his voice a bit shaky from the storm. "I may be small, but I can still make a difference." As the storm began to pass and the skies cleared, Sammy returned to his tree hollow. He was tired, wet, and cold, but his heart was warm with the knowledge that he had done something brave. For the first time in his life, Sammy felt proud of himself. The next day, when the sun came out and the forest dried up, all of Sammy's friends came to see him. They had heard about what Sammy had done to save the ducks, and they couldn't stop talking about his bravery. "You were so brave, Sammy," said Timmy the rabbit. "I've never seen anyone so brave in my life." Benny the bird chirped. "You didn't let the storm stop you. You helped others, even when you were scared." Carla the chipmunk nodded in agreement. "You've shown us all what true courage is. It's not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about doing what's right, even when you're afraid." Sammy's heart swelled with happiness as he looked at his friends. He realized that bravery wasn't about being fearless. It was about having the courage to face your fears and do what was right, even when it seemed impossible. Sammy had always been brave in his own way, helping his friends and family, but now he knew that real courage came from within. From that day on, Sammy was no longer the timid squirrel he once was. He still had his fears, but he faced them with bravery and determination. He continued to help others, and his friends admired him for his kindness and courage. Sammy had learned that being brave didn't mean you had to be fearless. It meant you had the strength to do the right thing, no matter how scared you felt. Moral of the story: true bravery is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face your fears and do what is right. No matter how small you are, your courage can make a big difference. Thanks for listening. If you loved this inspiring adventure, don't forget to like and subscribe to Tiny Little Bookworms for more stories of courage and kindness. See you next time.